Hello, everyone. Paul Elam here from avoiceformen.com. I'm going to be talking a little bit today about women. So I need to start without hesitation by tipping my hat to female MRAs and female traditionalists who actually stand by their men in sickness and in health, no matter what might befall them in life. I also acknowledge equalitarian women who work, contribute equally to their romantic lives in terms of finance, and make some sort of effort to carry their weight in other areas of the relationship, like, say, getting out of a car to help change a flat tire, or finding a reasonable compromise to a conflict in their relationships. I also salute the many women who can't or won't be defined by these labels, but who nonetheless live lives rooted in self-worth and self-sufficiency. Not all women are like that. Being covered, I now need to spend the rest of my time on women that most of the men in this world actually have to deal with in life, especially as they get a little older. This won't be popular with some. Straight talk about real women, regardless of age, has a strange effect on the blue pill world. Just check out some of the reactions from feminist manginas and white knights and even some of the tenderfoot green MRAs over on Reddit to some of the articles posted from avoiceformen.com. It's actually quite comical to go in there for a read. You can almost just see them, spittle flying over their keyboards as they hammer away in angry spastic fits like manic Daffy Ducks on meth. See, it's misogyny! Misogyny! He just hates women! Well, no, I don't. I don't hate children either, but sometimes I find them annoying, largely for the same reasons I am annoyed by a lot of women. Take that back. It is for exactly the same reasons. There's really no difference at all, except that if I correct a woman, I'm subject to being called a misogynist. I was doing a cross-country trip a few years back and had the CB radio on, trying to make time and avoid cops. I heard a conversation between two truckers. Both sounded like they were middle-aged or thereabouts. One was telling the other how he kept a travel bag ready by the door every time he went home, so that when the nagging and disharmony his wife created became too much to bear, he could just pick up that bag and head right back on the road with no preparation at all. An instant escape plan, one apparently that he had used a few times over the years. The other driver said he understood perfectly well and then wondered aloud in the creative phrasing I'd come to expect from truckers. I never could figure 'em out, he said. A woman would rather climb over a barbed wire fence and crawl through cactus to start a fight than to just look you in the eye and solve a problem. Then another trucker chimed in out of seemingly nowhere, and he added to the conversation. That's because they're all children, he said. Every last goddamn one of them. The radio channel fell into a silence that spoke volumes. Not another word needed to be said. Indeed, none was. Now, it is easy, obligatory for many and compulsive for others to conjure up a reflexive blue pill interpretation of the conversation, to boil it down to some dismissive charge of woman-hating. The only problem is that there's a lot of truth to everything that was said. We do have, for a number of reasons, a pandemic of gross immaturity in Western women. Oh, what's that? Did I just hear a few duck feathers ruffle? That means the squawking is not far off. But as long as I'm going to be castigated by the pussy police, I might as well finish what I started. It starts with fairy tales, Prince Charming to the rescue, mystical unicorns and the like. It gets solid reinforcement from the daddy component of the daddy's little girl equation and turns into a lifelong fantasy by many women that means a rich, handsome male supporter. Lots of fulfilled whims and eternal adulation, well, for just being so beautiful. All this comes with a commensurate lack of expectation that our porcelain princess will need to contribute anything to a relationship but her looks and her needs. Now, all this would seem easy enough to fix. Such unhealthy fantasies should be dispelled right around the time we tell children there's no Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, or Easter Bunny. We could just tell little girls that when sexual maturity approaches, that they have to woman up. But something else happens instead. Daddy continues to treat little girl like a princess, thus imprinting the future expectation of other men to do the same. Mom often augments this with bitch lessons, and altogether we set about with every form and force in this culture to help them maintain a collection of childish beliefs about themselves and about others. We give them princess t-shirts and tiaras instead of the truth and a moral compass. And they wear that commercialized princess gear far, far past the point of reason. Often they wear it to the grave, even if just in their own minds. They never even imagine how this actually looks to the mature mind. But to give you an idea, just imagine this, if you will. A middle-aged man, hair graying, with a plastic mask on, ringing a doorbell and shouting, "Trick or treat!" in a high-pitched squeal on Halloween night. Now there's just something awfully wrong with that picture, isn't there? But they don't see it at all, because their minds are not mature. And it sets up a pattern of perpetual disappointment and frustration that is the hallmark of so many of their lives. Even before most women's looks start to fade, many of them are shocked to find out that Prince Charming is human after all, and that he actually gets a little tired of being held to royal expectations of what he's supposed to provide and who he's supposed to be. Of course, that means there's something wrong with him, right? So our Western woman embarks on the same path of so many other Western women. She dumps her Prince Charming, cranks up the hypergamous volume, and goes in search of a non-defective man unit. The self-help and women's magazine industry are quite tuned into this, or perhaps they created it. They run constant articles on how to get a man to, well, fill in the blank with your childish desire of choice. They know that at any given time there are now literally millions of women readers who have just fired that last disappointing bastard and are on the prowl to find another one who recognizes their royal status as bearer of the sacred vajayjay. They have not figured out that their relationship problems are in the mirror, and with the help of all those who profit from such ignorance, they're not going to. And so then, despite having a better standard of living and more options than any human beings in history, they get even more miserable. Enter the pharmaceutical companies. Sometimes a failure to mature and develop reasonable expectations has to be reinforced chemically. It is the prescription version of Cosmo, the anything but accountability pill. And it comes in, you guessed it, blue. Women's taste for antidepressants now rivals their taste for chocolate, and that too, of course, is our faulty Prince Charming's fault. Is this a pattern, maybe? I'm not sure, but something really seems funny to me here. Why is it that every dumbed-down fairy tale disappointment for women in modern culture leads directly to the illusion of being corrected by some sort of enhanced involvement in shallow consumerism? It seems that women are generally in one of two states these days. They are either trying to make themselves into what the imaginary princess will buy into, or they are immersed in their bitterness that that imaginary prince is imaginary. Or, as so many women are wont to do, they're doing both at the same time. It seems to me that if women simply matured and developed reasonable expectations of men as well as themselves, it might spell the end for Cosmo, the entire self-help industry, the cosmetic surgery industry, the cosmetic industry, 99% of all psychotherapists, and at least 10 very lucrative psychoactive drugs. Oh yeah, and they might actually find some happiness with themselves and with the men who don't have to jump through stupid hoops to try to make them happy. No, wait a minute. That can't be. If all that were true, then that would mean that women as a class are being duped out of countless billions of their own and their men's money year after year, either on the pursuit of a childish pipe dream or their anger over what should be its obvious unattainability. It would mean that all these entities, feminism, consumerism, pop psychology, media, advertising, politics, and social custom, had all merged into one great big bitch machine. That the modern female psyche is no more than a product of that machine, and that the woman attached to that psyche now has to go out and work a shitty job so she can buy and consume other products of that very machine, or get some man to do it for her. And this would explain why the quality of her life and her happiness deteriorates with every passing year. Nah, as my other friend says, that can't be. It's all because we live in a patriarchy.